Game time. Game time, Randy. Game's getting ready to start.
All right.
Whistle is blown. We are here Tuesday at 12. There's the whistle over there. And what else are we here for? But to answer your questions. But you don't have too many of them today. That's because everybody's busy shopping, you know.
Okay.
I think so.
You think?
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah. But if you got any questions, just add them in the comments, and we'll have time to get to them today. All right? So we're glad you're here. Let us know you're here. Hello. Say hello back, okay? So here we go, Randy. Serving question.
Okay.
For serving, is it exclusive to just benefiting the church or church-based opportunities, or do other serving needs count? Not to make it about checking a box, but if you're not serving in the right areas, does it not count?
Well, servanthood is just meant to be a lifestyle. Okay. I mean, Christ, because of the sacrificial love that motivated him, ever looked for an opportunity to serve. Particularly, he served within the framework of wanting to reconcile people to God, to clarify people's understanding of who God is, what he was really like. And so his deeds were all done in that frame of mind. Okay, so for us, serving your husband, serving your wife, serving your kids, serving the people at your work, which I've said throughout the series, that it's a lifestyle. Having said that,
I think an angel just got its wings.
No, that's a bell.
That's a bell.
Yeah,
okay, never mind.
That's a demon that just took somebody out, perhaps.
Oh, okay.
Having said that, it is an interesting thing. Okay, when you take 1 Corinthians 12 and, of course, Ephesians 4 and Romans 12 and all the passages that deal with the fact that the church is constructed like a body, the physical body of Jesus. Jesus meaning he's the mind that inhabits the many members, and we're all to be different in our function. We are to find our place. He is talking about function within the local church. He is talking about local churches being fully functional so that Jesus can continue to express himself through the many members in differing ways, but the many members are working together. So this is localized. And so it's an interesting thing. I don't think we need to say it's either or, okay? But I think there is room to believe that a lot of servanthood would go on in the context of a local church's function. But this doesn't mean that a person may not have, for example, let's say a sick family member, that they have to dedicate maybe almost all their life to serving that. Would that be? Of course, it's service. It's any act of service that we do because of the love of Christ, stirring us to do that. That's the person using an unusual term counts. I kind of know what they mean, but yes, all servanthood anywhere, if it's as much as just being kind to somebody you meet in a restaurant, that's servanthood. It all flows from the same place. It all counts.
Yeah. And certainly there would be a problem, the person who may be just throwing themselves and serving at a church, but yet they don't serve their own family. That's,
yes.
You know what I mean? That's a big problem.
And that can happen.
And then, again, we certainly just throw ourselves into our family, but that in most cases still leaves room that God has a place in the church for you too, and his intention.
Yeah, it's trying to figure out the honest balance, and it's about ultimately our being honest with ourselves and honest with God.
Yeah. Okay, so you brought Taylor up on stage for your little closing. That was fun. I like you guys seeing eye to eye. That was
finally
the first time I've ever seen you two see eye to eye. So it made someone ask then, wondering if our worship leaders, they're talking about different leaders on our team, are on staff or volunteers.
They're all volunteers. Taylor is the only one on staff.
Yeah, and it's quite a committed volunteer team, the amount of time they put in.
And there's always room for more.
Yeah. Well, tell us about that a little bit while we're talking about it.
Well, honestly, the team is always looking for those that have singing abilities or musical abilities, and so if anybody listening has that or knows someone, this is an interesting thing we found in Church Review. For example, we have three singers on our team right now that had sat in our church for 9 years. Now, some of the girls would have been too young to sing 9 years ago, but the mom could have certainly, and the one older daughter, and yet they didn't. They evidently felt there was not a need or something like that. Sometimes you see people filling roles and you think, oh, they don't have any need. Yeah, and that's rarely true, because we are a society that's always in motion. People are moving away, they're taking jobs and all these different things in different parts of the country. So if you're out there listening, or if you know someone in the church that man, I know they can sing, or I know they play an instrument, have a talk with them. We are in a state of looking for people. And of course, we stay in that state.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, it's always one. And we've mentioned a couple other areas too that could sure need some help and stuff. Like Randy mentioned, our transportation ministry. So we have vans that go out into the community and pick people up who need rides to church. So we just need some drivers, and you don't need the special
license.
CDL license for this. So if that's something you could jump into. And another one is our kiosk. You use the example if you can send email and stuff, but really the example is if you can order your sandwich at Sheetz.
Okay.
It's that kind of like little push button thing. So if you're a bastard ordering your sandwich at Sheetz or Wawa, that's what our kiosk is like. So that's a place too that we kind of need to build up those teams. And as always, children's ministry. We definitely use people back in our rooms now that we're running 3 services.
Yeah, I mean, we have tremendous children's programs, tremendous children's ministries, but adding the 3rd service, of course, it means that now there's grand opportunities for people that want to jump in and just serve kids.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. There's grand opportunities.
Yes.
There is. And I tell you, the teams back there are just, they're really, even all this last year, connecting and working together. It's really cool to watch. Okay, now we're going to shift into a deep question. Randy, what language did Adam and Eve speak? Fascinating, isn't it?
I have to start by saying I have no idea. Scripture doesn't really tell us, but it's a fascinating question. I don't know. I really don't. We're just not told. I suppose it could be could be Hebrew, but I kind of doubt it. The whole Hebrew nation didn't start until Abraham. Abraham was from Chaldea, Ur of Chaldea, so he was probably speaking a Sumerian language. We don't know. It's fascinating.
Well, I think it's fascinating, too, to think what language we will speak in eternity. Is it just going to be this one language, and what will that language be, or do we just sort of speak in all languages, and we just can talk Mandarin? If you and I want to sit here and talk Mandarin,
it's an interesting, and of course we can only speculate, but I kind of think it's going to be a pure thought transmission that is beyond language. I could be wrong.
But how about the millennial reign?
You'll still have all the languages. All the languages that we now have will be functioning during the millennial reign.
But
and maybe we will be able, we that are helping Christ to, legislate the earth during that time, maybe we will be able to at least understand other languages that we can't understand now, and probably speak them too. If you get sent to a place in China to legislate, you have to be able to communicate. I tend to think there's probably enough Chinese Christians they'll get sent there during the millennium.
It'll
just keep us here in Frederick probably.
We might get sent.
Yeah, we might be sent to London.
Yeah.
Because our accents would be so unusual in London.
Yes, they would. Okay, here's a lengthy question, but it kind of gives a person's story here. So they quit their job to pursue a degree 3 years ago. They've graduated, but now they've not found a job. They've been actively pursuing that for almost a year. Prayed and prayed about this and other things. While my prayers for my other family members have all been answered, this particular one for myself has not. I'm finding it exceptionally hard to stay positive and hopeful that God will lead me to the right job. And so then they refer to Philippians 4, where it says, don't worry about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known. And it says that the peace of God that transcends, surpasses all understanding will guard our hearts and minds. So they said they've prayed and prayed, and they know it will happen on God's time and on His terms. But how do I continue to keep my faith and stay afloat without sinking into depression?
I think they're going through all the right processes. They certainly are thinking clearly, that they know they can trust God, and God's got a timing process in this. The only thing I would say, if they're struggling to the degree that it sounds like they are, probably means they're fixating I know it's hard when you need a job, man, but probably fixating a little more attention on this than what is probably going to serve them in the long run. If they could focus on, okay, ultimately, I'm here in this life to become a more Christ-like person. How can the pressure, even the disappointment of this, help me to grow, to be more Christ-like? So I'm here to be who God meant me to be and do what God meant me to do. What is it that I can do right now that would be consistent with that unique pathway, that unique set of good deeds that God has laid out for me? How might even my interactions in pursuing a job and all this kind of thing, or talking to someone else that they too can't find a job, and encouraging them. Sometimes when you're discouraged yourself, encouraging others, as stupid as it sounds, can help you in certain ways. There's things that run through my mind when I read things like this. I hope the person is staying flexible. If you're, I don't know, let's see, you got this degree, and so now you're maybe pursuing one sort of job. You may have to be flexible, and you may have to be willing to work a little bit outside of what you envisioned your field of labor being. Mm-hmm. Okay? And you can't make too much of that. In America today, your career has become so important that it's a part of your identity and a part of the way you feel about your own value or success as a human being. That's not accurate. We ought to be able, as Christ followers especially, we ought to be able to feel as good about ourselves. I'll just use that term. If we're faithful to God and we're being a blessing to others, we ought to feel as good about ourselves if we're on a trash truck or working in a house where nobody sees it, or the CEO of a company. It should all be the same. Now, if you feel like, but I'm trained for this and I can't get this position, I know that probably feels frustrating. And all I'm trying to say is, if you have to take in your mind, would feel like a lesser position, don't feel like that's a lesser position. Yeah. Because in God, they're all equal. Mm-hmm. Okay? Be faithful. And it could be that you take what you consider the lesser position for a while, but it's just a developmental step, mm-hmm. and then something else opens up in the position you do. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so many stories where people meet people in unusual circumstances, and suddenly the door that was closed becomes open. Yeah. And waiting is... it's a normative experience of the Christian journey. It seems like God takes all His children through cycles of waiting. Waiting is very difficult for us as humans because we know that clock is ticking, our life is going by. And it's this terrible situation where we feel helpless. We're doing everything that we can do, to make things happen, and they're still not happening. So we literally have to wait on God. And it's uncomfortable, but it can also be great in our development. Things like patience and true trust and true reliance in God, gentleness of spirit. There's a lot of things that can develop out of this. I want to go back. If they're struggling with being on the edge of depression, I think they're fixating on this too much. It's in all of life, what kind of job we do is not, I don't want to insult this person, but it's not as important as we tend to make it to be. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, a job is about making sure you have a roof over your head and food in your stomach so that you can be the person God created you to be and do the things that God created you to do. Keep that in the forefront. I'm here to be who God made me to be, do what He made me to do, and the job is just a part. These are mm-hmm. components. Truth is, I don't care how much education the person has had, society is changing so rapidly. The likelihood is they're going to have to change careers again and be retrained within 5 to 10 year framework anyhow. I mean, we're in a stage of change that is happening so rapidly that people, let's say that somebody's going to be in the workforce for 50 years, they're probably going to have to change careers 5 different times, get retrained, start all over. So kind of hang loose, get a looser perspective thinking, as opposed to thinking, I just have to do this. This is what I'm trained for. If I don't do this, I'm a failure. You're not a failure.
Yeah, that's what struck me at the beginning about, they use the term, God will lead me to the right job in time. So it is possible that maybe they're a little focused on too narrow in their...
Yeah, that thing of the right job, it's that tightrope walk again, that the will of God is, I'm walking on this tightrope and I have to find the exact job. How about any job that pays, any honest job, as long as it's legal.
Yeah.
That's good.
Right.
That's good insight of God.
Yeah.
Be flexible. And this doesn't mean that He won't lead you to a place of maximum effectiveness at some point, but that can take more time than we like sometimes.
Yeah. So that's all the questions we have. So have we had anything come in, Jeff? You guys are busy, aren't you? Yeah. Too many Christmas cookies.
Think?
That's the problem.
Okay.
So this week you finish up.
Finish up the Live Out the Love series been on servanthood, yeah. And what I want to talk about this week is the rewards of servanthood. There's massive rewards in this life as well as in the future to come. And so that's where I want to end this series.
Okay. And then Christmas, we've got Christmas coming right around the corner. So on Sunday, December 22nd, we'll have a...
Yes, a special Christmas message, and I'm kind of titling it "Waiting on Christmas." There's you remember perhaps when you were a kid and you were counting down the days, and then that night you get so excited you couldn't even sleep, and then you had to, well, what's the rule? Do we get to open a present, on Christmas Eve, or do you have to wait till the morning? And then, okay, what hour in the morning? Can I wake mom and dad up at 6 in the morning? Or no, do not do that. So waiting, but we're going to take it, of course, from a biblical perspective and hopefully make it relevant to the waiting cycles that we go through, almost like this person waiting on this job. We do go through cycles of waiting in life. Sometimes they're puzzling, confusing, frustrating, discouraging, but they are meaningful if we can see them from that timeless perspective of God.
Okay. And on that particular Sunday, too, we're going to be doing... It's Christmas Carol Sunday, right? Acoustic Christmas Carol Sunday. So just like we did last year, that was a big hit with people. So Christmas Eve is our big service, and then we're gonna Sunday before do our Christmas
the
carols.
Sunday before will be kind of just that traditional Christmas carol, low volume music, but fun stuff, nostalgic stuff. Christmas Eve we go big.
We go big. That's
we
it.
go
we
big.
Go big. We go big. Go big or go home. So that's all we got today. We're gonna go home now. I'm gonna go home back to my office, get some work done. So everybody, been great spending this time with you. Have a good rest of the day.
Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Isn't that what Tiny Tim said?
I think so.
Yeah, that's Tiny Tim.